3, 2, 1, fight!
Open up, Colorado. It's 420. Time to grind and burn.
This is not your son's stoner show.
Welcome to the Cannabis Community Project. This is Brainstorm, once again bringing you your weekly podcast from the CCP studios high up in Denver, Colorado. You're exploring the business side of this newly emerging economy, focusing on the patient, the retailer, to the geek in the garage, creating that next innovation in cannabis. This is the first media platform to help fellow cannapreneurs build sustainable businesses. Hi, this is True Diligence, PI, proud sponsor. If you're looking for a job in the cannabis industry, you know how fierce the competition is. Think of the character you'll demonstrate by showcasing your credentials at the beginning of the hiring process. A simple, yet affordable way to show employers you're the clear choice. Visit our website at truediligencepi.com.
Move your resume to the top.
Well, my name is Alex Whiteplume. I come from South Dakota. I came up here all the way to Denver, Colorado. It's a mile high, and I came here because I was invited to join this Hemp Awards Festival because I'm all about hemp. I started growing hemp back in the year 1998, and today I have a federal restraining order against me, so I can't touch hemp, I can't grow it, I can't sell it, I can't do anything with it because I'm the only one named in the 1934 Marijuana Tax Act ban. No one's ever been named in that. I'm the only one. And why is that? And I'm a Native American, they call us, but I'm really Lakota. What we want to do is just ease out of the poverty, slide into the middle class, and live a comfortable life. We don't want to take over everything, but our main goal in life is to protect our water. Our water is being destroyed at a rapid rate, and it's not going to do me no good to grow industrial hemp if I'm going to water it with radiated water. And so we're opposed to all form of mining, especially the uranium minings, the oil minings, the propane miners. They're ruining water, and people in Colorado turn their faucet on and it lights up, and that really makes us sick. It makes us cry. Why are they doing this, and why ain't the people standing up? They need a boost of some kind to get up and defend what's real, and the water is real. So I come here today in Colorado, and I met a lot of friendly folks, and I'm just honored to be amongst people that are developing hemp and all its uses. People made me a wristband, I got a little knapsack, fanny pack, all types of things made with hemp, and that just makes me swell up with pride. And I wanted to do this. We could have been doing this for the last 20 years. We could have been way ahead in the hemp industry, but here we have to stand on the sidelines and observe other people doing this. So it makes us feel sort of jealous and envious, but again, we're proud that somebody's doing that. If you want to contact me, I'm real active on Facebook. I live way out in the country and there's nothing out there. My closest neighbor is 2 miles from me, so Facebook is a good outlet for me. I learn from people around the world what their movements is and what they're doing. It's under Alex Whiteplume. It's ALEX, Alex, and then White, WHITE, and then Plume, PLUME. It's a double word.
My name is Ashley Weber, ASHLEYWEBER, and I am here in supporting Alex Whiteplume and also to educate people on the medical properties of both cannabis and hemp. And I set court precedent for people living in Section 8 and not being able to use medical marijuana due to it being Scheduled 1. And I'm proud to just be here and support hemp and learn more about it.
I want to pray for this little girl here.
Yeah.
Walk
Calling from New Jersey?
No, I am calling from Steamboat Springs. I moved up here from New Jersey in like late 2007, and I just never changed my phone number. I've had the same phone for a long time, so never changed it.
That doesn't cause you like delays in service or from having an out-of-state phone or service?
It definitely does. Okay, I am Anthony Franchosi from the Honest Marijuana Company in Oak Creek, Colorado at www.honestmarijuana.com. We are trying to create the highest quality organic flower. We think 10 people in the first year will be working with us. The footprint of the building is 2,250 square feet, and it's 3 stories, so close to 8,000 square feet. We're focusing most of that space on growing and a lot of other space on the infused products, mostly concentrates. So everyone will kind of be working to that capacity. Trimmers, growers, a couple people in the concentrate side who we are really excited to be working with, and really smart people. So really stoked on that, and that's really what we have going on. The licensing process was very expensive. We got through that. I mean, we worked closely with the town for our building, which that was a massive process. I've worked in the construction world for almost 10 years. You know, I'm a young guy, but my whole adult life. When we started this process, I didn't know it. I was quite the depth, what it was going to take. So it's taken a lot longer than I thought it would. That's been the biggest thing, getting this building constructed. I have to say it's the biggest thing that I've learned. And now you're just finding out, I guess, it's a very competitive market in the state, which we expected. But there's definitely more we're learning every day. I think the biggest thing right now is just getting that building open and starting to grow. And I'm sure then I'm going to learn even a lot more. I mean, this time next year, we expect to be fully operational. What I'd like to see is some of our product going elsewhere in the state, and more importantly, I'd love to see some of it locally here in Steamboat. I know some of the people who work in the industry here in the few of the stores we have in this area, and that would be awesome to sell some of our products locally. That would be great. Hopefully be going elsewhere in the state. What I really just want to see is some good tested flour and concentrates with no residuals, no heavy metals, and definitely no pesticides, anything like that. So if you have a good idea and you're passionate, is that your milkman has 250 grand who he wants to make money too. And so that's something that I've absolutely learned, is that if you have a good idea and you're passionate, reach out for it and try to achieve it.
This show is streamed live from CCP Studios, but we can also do it via Skype, phone, and possibly some other technology ways. Let's just get you on the show. So if you have an idea, you have a business, maybe a product you've been thinking about, contact me. Brainstorm at cannabiscommunityproject.com. Hey, Cannapreneurs. This week's show is sponsored by Dairy Berry's Recording Studio. Dairy Berries Recording Studio, located in Arvada, Colorado, is your local recording studio with affordable rates. Mark is well experienced and will make your show, music, or any audio you have sound great. He makes our show come across the internet loud and clear every week, and he can do the same for your project. Take a look at dairyberriesrecordingstudio.com or call Mark at 303-456-8216. Having some things be in place would help. Having a more permanent studio rather than a rotating studio would help, because it would give a permanent location where you could kind of create an office environment around it. Have your network of people coming and going, and have more people working on the show from a permanent location. Right now, it's all over the place, so it's hard to pull together a network of people who are consistently working on one project. So it's usually me as the bass every week, and then every week having a constant changing of individuals who are kind of helping me out on the show, because I don't really have resources to just hire people to be my full-time. Right. Hey, now you're my correspondent. Here's a salary. Go put together some segments and come back at the end of the week. I wish I could do that. Unfortunately, it's mostly me. It's done on a week-by-week basis. I mean, as you'll see, we recorded today, and only because it's already Friday and tomorrow's show is in mixing right now, that one's done. I'll start working on this one by Sunday and start from the beginning of each show. I start with the introduction, start with what are the ads going to be this week, what's the music going to be, what are the different segments, put all that together, which takes a day or two of probably 4 hours a day. Usually I'll work from about 9 at night to about 1, 2 in the morning. Do that for about 5-6 days a week, working on the show. After I put together what's going to be on the show, what are going to be the segments, what's going to be the music, what are going to be the sponsors. Once that's put together in order, then I have to go through and actually edit each minute for fluency, taking out those dead spaces, kind of correcting people's speech, making sure things that shouldn't be talked about, like you said, don't get talked about, cleaning things up, which takes another day or two. And then I send it off to my audio guy, which spends a day or two, depending on his time frame, doing a master mix, and then he sends it back. And then usually by Friday night or Saturday morning, I'll upload it to my RSS feed, and then it posts live at 4:20 my time to the feed, and then goes out from there to all the different places it distributes to.
Oh my God, that's super ambitious and super admirable of you to do that every week, man. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's about close to 20 hours a week per show to get that hour. I mean, if you think about it, so we just spent over an hour talking, but normally we'll spend about an hour with somebody, right?
Yeah.
It'll take about 4 to 6 hours to just edit our conversation,
right?
And then I have to think about music for the week. So I spend probably an hour going through music files looking for what music to play, and then I gotta actually place it in the show, so that could be another hour or two. And then I gotta pick out the sponsors and the commercials for the week, make sure I'm getting the right sponsors and the right rotation, which could take about a half hour actually working that out and placing them in the show. Then I could have within a very short amount of time probably a full network of 3 or 4 shows going, a full lineup of sponsors, a 24/7 content, everything from audio podcast to my YouTube channel to the social media, and even possibly a text blog, and really cover all the media areas and just dive into it and make it a Cannabis Network media channel. And that's the ultimate goal in time.
That's the goal. That's great.
That's what I'm building up to. So the single product I'm starting with is my show.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, from a consumer point of view, a listener point of view on this end, I've listened since week 2. I missed the first episode. I went back and listened to it, but listening from the ground up, the show has progressively gotten better quality-wise, and I would say that it appears that the show is way more advanced and covers more ground and has more traction now than at the beginning. The content, like the people, have gotten better and better progressively. Like Bird Box guy was hilarious, man. Holy shit, he was on fire.
Puff, magic dragon, he lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist, land called Honolulu. And little Jackie Paper, he loved Rascal Puff and brought him strings and sealing wax and other fancy stuff. Oh, Puff, the magic dragon, he lived by the sea, frolicked in the autumn in land called Honolulu. Together they would travel on a boat with billowed sail. Jackie kept a lookout perched on Puff's gigantic tail. Oh no, kings and princes would bow whene'er they came. Pirate ships would lower their flags when Puff roared out his name. Oh, Puff, the magic dragon, he lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist, land called Honolulu. A dragon lives forever, but not so little boys. Painted wings and giant's rings make way for other toys. And one great night it happened, Jackie Paper came no more. Puff, that mighty dragon, yes, ceased his fearless roar. El Puff, the magic dragon, lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist, land called Honolulu. And Puff, the magic dragon, lived by the sea, frolicked in the autumn mist, land called Honolulu.
Just an education, a master's degree for so many people.
Oh yeah,
And
I want
it's-
to learn all about it.
Yeah,
But
so
let's start with an introduction.
Okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Paul Isham. I am the executive director of the Industrial Hemp Research Foundation. We're located here in the Denver area, and the Research Foundation was co-founded by myself and a gentleman who is a lawyer, but has converted his practice over to specifically focus on hemp law, hemp cannabis law. And we are moving in the direction of funding, at this time, academic and educational projects related to industrial hemp. One of the agreements we have just about finalized is with CSU, Colorado State University, and we are going to be funding a agronomy and cultivar trial project, and you can see that on our website if you look into the details. And it will be conducted by one of the agricultural agricultural sciences professors, and the person he reports to is the executive director of the agricultural department at CSU. His name is Jeff Steiner. He's on our board, And the second project that we're focusing on is at University of Colorado, and we're working through that agreement with a professor named Monica Fleschner, who is also on our board. She is under the neurological department that is run by a gentleman named Bob Sievers. And so these two are our lead projects, but we have others waiting in the wings. We have a very busy schedule coming up in June with a lot of different industry-focused activities, the Indo Expo, the Hemp Farmers Market, the U.S. Cannabis Expo down in Colorado Springs, and we'll be representing the foundation as well as a couple of cooperatives that are going to look at things more from a commercial standpoint than from a research and development standpoint. But that's a high-level focus. Our purpose is to enable research, and this is where it all starts. If you think industrial hemp has any chance of coming back into this country as a viable industry or tradable commodity, you have to validate the market with research. And it can't just be CBD, just be who's got the best seed cultivar. It has to be focused on the market, the production, and the manufacturing sides of the market as well. So we'll be moving from more basic type projects that we're working to fund to more tactical, market-driven needs, validations. When hemp was outlawed with marijuana back in the late 30s, we didn't think the way we do today. We didn't have technology. We didn't have innovative thought like we did. We were focused on rope, sales, and maybe packaging and apparel, and limited foods. Now, we believe there is so much more that can be acquired out of this plant that only research can prove out. It's the litmus test, if you will, for why would a producer get involved in the business, create a relationship with a grower, and be their largest customer at a wholesale level. The whole ecosystem around, just like any industry, around this product, this commodity, is where we hope the research helps and validates and establishes and especially proves to our own government that there are benefits for everyone. Job benefits, market benefits, economic benefits, manufacturing and technology benefits, as well as the all-important tax dollar back to the government. It will go full circle. And this is what we're hoping. And so, as young as we are, we've made a lot of headway. We've gained interest from other universities out of state. And if we continue to move down this track, we will probably expand our focus to go beyond university or academic research and move it into the commercial side of research. But, our bylaws for the foundation now are pretty focused on academic.
We can say who it is. David from David Law.
David Bush,
we did a show with him just 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago.
Yep.
Learned all about his practice and his involvement. He connected us. He sent me to you to have this conversation. And there's a whole network of people out there that I'm learning about as we're really getting into these divisions of recreational, medical, and now hemp. And there's some very clear lines being drawn.
Right.
So your involvement is strictly just on the industrial hemp side, correct?
From the foundation's perspective, but we all have individual lives. I'm in technology. David has a law practice, but we also, outside of the foundation, and I think it ultimately will come around and complement the need to drive broader research. We have been exploring a commercial initiative that I can't provide too many details around, but basically, if you look at the way the world is today, there's not a lot of industrial hemp being grown. So there's a lot of that wait and see type attitude, preparation, let's get ready to do this and let's get ready to do that. But what is being grown today is the THC producing cannabis. And other than what is already being marketed in the medical and recreational dispensaries, a lot is being thrown away. And of course, you may know that the state has certain regulations about how you dispose of that waste material. Well, to avoid dumpster jumping, which already has occurred, because not every grow operation and dispensary is disposing of waste material that, in the proper fashion. The state has very limited resources to audit and enforce that. So it is the wild, wild west in some capacity. You're dealing with cash businesses, and you're dealing with a very fluid set of laws, rules, and regulations. I don't think the concrete or hempcrete is dry. Okay, so that's going to have to go through its own level of maturity. But if you speculate, hypothetically speaking, that there is a way to collect up that waste material by some means and process, convert it to where it is compliant with state regulations as a disposed of material, it still possesses all of those other elements that the cannabis plant produces. So the fiber, the herd, the root material, the nitrogen that it puts back into the soil, the oils that can be extruded out of it. So there's still some value if it's disposed of compliant with what the state is happy with, yet not completely decimated to where it can't be used for anything else. That in itself is a micro market that is evolving today.
Right. It reminds me of a parallel between restaurants, fast food places, and their food throwaway, that they have to throw it away if it passes the too good to eat for the customer time frame. Right. But it's not really bad food. Yeah. Right? It's like the milk expiration date. Once it passes the date,
look at
bad.
any restaurant or food service organization or company that uses any type of oil, vegetable oil or whatever. A business was built around that reusable oil collectors, the grease, and they're turning that into biofuels. So or soaps or whatever. So think of a big landfill. So anything that you can imagine sitting in a landfill, rotting away, causing carbon emissions. Why do you think they have vent pipes in a landfill so it doesn't blow up? It doesn't become toxic. Industrial hemp has so many properties that could complement the replacement of many of those items. As I was saying before, there are these ancillary business paths that are being born today that are looking at, what commodity is available today? Well, it's cannabis waste. So how many different things could you do with that would still allow you to classify it as industrial hemp? So the research around that is being done right now, only it's not necessarily academic research. So the foundation, although we support the academic and educational side of research, we have sort of, I don't want to call it a side business, but we have a side focus that is more independent of the foundation and in partnership with a couple of other organizations that are already in the business that are looking to do something else.
Right.
And so there's a lot of experimentation going on.
Yeah, right now individuals doing their own. I mean, I did a show a few months back with a guy collecting all the stock from dispensaries, throwing it out and making paper and cloth out of it.
Yeah. And there's a manufacturer up in Fort Lupton. They're still in incubation stage, but he has created an extrusion machine that he has 5 patents on now. He's been testing it with wheat straw, testing it with corn stalk, and he has an agreement, a trial agreement with a well-known pulp and paper company, big pulp and paper company that we would recognize the name. And he's running about 10 beta tests for them, asking him to do certain things. There's an industrial hemp grower up in Sterling who has just donated his crop to this manufacturer to conduct these tests to see what comes of it. And it can come out as a dry biomass material, or it can come out as a sort of a tarry ooze that he could fill a 50-gallon barrel with. And that can be shipped across state lines. It's perfectly compliant with federal laws. So it becomes a wholesale biomass that can go to a pulp and paper company for alternative products. It could go to a plastics manufacturer as another way to create a more biodegradable Keurig cup. or something like that, or the weed eater line in your weed eater that biodegrades and doesn't leave little pieces of plastic laying around your yard, and also adds vitamins and nutrients to the lawn when it biodegrades.
That actually brings up do you mind saying where you work or who you work for? Is that something you want to keep?
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Okay.
I'm currently, I can just give you the real quick nutshell. Currently,
I think that's important just to kind of establish who you are.
Yeah.
So people don't, a lot of times people think I'm out just on the street grabbing guys off the corner.
I just jumped off the bus.
Right. And I think it's important that people understand who I'm talking to in context of who you are.
Right.
Your professional status, maybe not necessarily your age level, but just kind of help people understand from an audio standpoint that we're talking to some professionals here in business. And
that's a great segue as to what I envisioned when I first became interested in all of this. And of course, my role with the foundation is a volunteer role. So it is a charitable, investment of my time. I believe in it. It's a passion of mine. But I don't get paid to do this. So I have to fit it in with my real day job, which is I work for Dell Computer Corporation in their Dell Services Group, and I'm a senior advisor for digital business. I've been in technology for over 30 years, mainly on the software and services side. It has allowed me to develop my approach style and a way to be compelling and valid in what I want to say when I'm talking to someone who might be an investor in industrial hemp research. So one ties into the other. Again, I look at industrial hemp from a very technology-centric perspective. I'm not a farmer. I've never worked in the manufacturing industries, but I know it's going to start there. The whole supply chain has to begin somewhere and end somewhere. And so there are so many different stopping points along the way.
The organization is new, you said, right? 90-some days in?
We're about 90, maybe about 100 days old.
How does this sit with your employer? Is this something that's openly discussed? Was this something you just said, hey, I'm going to do this on the side? How did that work?
Dell is a very community-oriented company. Like most major corporations, they encourage personal and beneficial involvement in so many types of benefit initiatives, charities. I know just about every manager at Dell has got something that they believe in: women in business, Habitat for Humanity, Leukemia Society. I volunteer for...
But those aren't as controversial as hemp.
Well, you have to start somewhere.
Right.
I'm sure if I dug deep enough, there would be some volunteer organizations that are, maybe less mainstream than the ones that everybody knows: American Cancer Society, Wounded Warriors, in the sense of bringing jobs to America, back to America that may be elsewhere, in the sense of bringing innovation into the agricultural community, in the sense of helping farmers across this country stop going bankrupt, be able to expand what they do for a living. I mean, I came from a very agricultural part of Texas where I was born, and I've watched farmlands die. It's a very sad story in this country. And so we may not manufacture everything as we move forward into the future, but we can sure innovate from something that was put in the cupboard for almost, 70 some odd years, and is still a very valid commodity that has so many different benefits. And that's what became my passion. And if anyone questions my interest in this, I have more arguments than you can shake a stick at for why it is a good use of my personal time.
So you didn't have to get special permission to be involved in this?
No. If I were to ask Dell to support it, there is a program within Dell that validates, and they have a governance council that says, okay, they have a program called Dell Matching. It's called Dell Gives. So they match certain contributions if it is an approved initiative.
Right.
Right now, where industrial hemp sits, on its timeline, its maturity timeline, as it is reborn back into this country, is probably a little too early to go down that path.
Right.
But I'm convinced, and I know there's thousands of people like me out there that are doing different things, are convinced that this will happen. Mm-hmm. This will become a viable commodity. It will produce the benefits, economic as well as scientific, medical, nutritional. It can't help but become a viable commodity once again. When it gets to that point, it doesn't stop the need for research. When it gets to that point, it actually accelerates that need. And so that's when you go to those organizations that may not want to be the leaders in supporting that, just because of the nature of their organization. Right. Some are very conservative, others are cutting edge. But it'll happen.
Right. I mean, I bring that up before we turned on the microphones. We brought up the Dude, Where's My Dell guy.
Yeah.
That's what I remember from, I guess, high school. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a long time ago. Yeah, but remember, Dell was a very different company back then.
Right. I mean, it was. I guess the whole world was different in that sense.
Yeah.
And I guess an organization, company, nonprofit, for-profit, didn't matter. There wasn't really a public avenue where one could support or just be involved in it without some type of issue.
I mean, look at crowdfunding. In the beginning, crowdfunding was only allowed to support nonprofits. Now crowdfunding can support, look at Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Crowdfunding can support for-profit.
2012, I think, was when Obama signed that.
Yep. I met Michael Bennett that year at a seminar on crowdfunding and crowdsourcing in Fort Collins at their Innovation Center, and that's what got me hooked on crowdfunding. The foundation, if we can pull it together and get our infrastructure laid out correctly, we hope to launch our own crowdfunding engine sometime maybe in the early fall.
For the organization?
For the organization, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
To raise money for what specifically?
There's two tactics when you're looking to raise funding for research projects. You can go out and solicit like-minded people that would be focused on funding specific projects, almost like a charitable donation. Or maybe they would share in the IP. It all comes down to agreements that are set in place. You could also, and I think our best avenue at this early stage is to not try to raise funding for any one given project, but to raise funding in general for industrial hemp research, in general, so that we have a pool of funds that can then be channeled. We have an application process and a procedure on how the board votes and agrees to accept this project as one that we will work to fund. There's another one at CSU that is wanting to raise funds, and she wants to do an economic study. Now, if you look at it from a commercial sense, having the findings and being able to publish an economic study around industrial hemp, the whole supply chain, where the best benefits would lie along the way, that has immense value to this burgeoning market. It has the validation that would justify a potential manufacturer going to a bank and getting a loan to start up that operation, because they can prove it with a certified and accredited study that validates why would I want to go out there and make biodegradable weed eater line.
So let's define the specifics of the organization, because we're saying research, but I don't think we've really defined what that means as far as the activities of what the foundation is going to do. So currently, what is currently happening? I mean, the last 90-some days since you started, and then the next 90-some days out.
Our plan, and again, plans can change, especially when you're still maturing as an organization, is to, we've participated in a few events. Our best friends right now are networking, volunteers, and donations. So if you go to our website, there's a donation page. There's a page that talks about the current approved projects that we're trying to work funding for, each one of the executive board and our roles and our profiles, and then some bios on the professors that will be running those first two projects. But there's also some validation about why. Why would we even be doing this? Well, again, it goes back to nothing will be possible if it isn't proven out. it will help change the laws because the powers that be that make the laws feel more comfortable when they see an accredited document that is a proven research. Why did the government finally give the FDA money to start playing around with CBD? They would have never done that. But somebody suspects that there's actually validity here. We have done a couple of mailers. We're working on a couple of email blasts that we're going to send out to various categorized groups that we have information on. They're sort of opt-in groups right now. Groups where we don't have to educate them on the differences between marijuana and industrial hemp, and other groups where we might have to. So we're tweaking that messaging. I have a meeting next Tuesday with one of our volunteers who is a marketing specialist, and we're going to come up with those campaigns that will go out to people and really tell the story and ask the right questions about their interest in their level of support. As I travel around, like I said, I try to meet with people that I know are sympathetic to the future of industrial hemp and organizations that might be interested from an innovation standpoint. Case in point, oil companies that are looking into biofuels. Case in point, manufacturers that are trying to reduce the amount of carbon in their products. Any number of things that are very eco-friendly, because if a organization that buys into this and begins to produce products that are proven to be beneficial to the environment can advertise and establish themselves as an eco-friendly company, believe it or not, there's tax breaks for organizations like that. And so it's really a two-way benefit to adopt that type of attitude. It's being done in Canada. It's being done in Germany. It's being done in Russia. It's being done in China. The benefits back to the companies may be different based on their governments. The writing's on the wall that this will morph into what it should be.
It really feels like we're way behind to the rest of the world.
We're 10 plus years behind the rest of the world. And really, we're the largest consumer of finished industrial hemp goods. So why wouldn't we want to ante into that game, so to speak?
If you took out industrial hemp and put in petroleum, that same sentence could almost be said.
I'm just saying.
Some things don't always make sense. So what I'm hearing is there's kind of three angles here on the Research Foundation. One is kind of a consumer research, a marketing aspect. One is for businesses to work with how it can be incorporated. And then the other is a research of gathering information.
Well, tie it into education, really. As much as you, myself, and our small little community, and it is a small community in Colorado that get it, that understand that there is the legalization of marijuana was the only way that industrial hemp could become a commodity that could be experimented with because they were tied together. If they weren't tied together, I don't know that the legalization of marijuana would have happened as rapidly.
Right.
I think it's the chicken and the egg. Yeah. One thing led to the other. But if we can manage, if legislation can manage to separate the two. I visit with dispensaries and talk to them about supporting the foundation because they're going to want to look at other revenue streams too eventually. I talk to organizations. For instance, I'm trying to get a meeting at RJ Reynolds Tobacco. Why wouldn't a company that is not making as much money as they used to make, is not that friendly company, that's why they've become these multinational holding companies, getting into food products and stuff. They cannot just be a tobacco company anymore. So why not look into alternative sources of food products, alternative sources of pain relief, and different things? And then you got big pharma. Right. Why wouldn't they start looking into this? But nobody wants to be the first one on the dance floor. So because it is a little controversial. But you separate the two, and all of a sudden the controversy goes away.
Sorry, I can't hear the name R.J. Reynolds without always thinking about the movie Barbarians at the Gate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
the smokeless cigarette.
Yeah,
right? The smokeless cigarettes, and just that whole idea around that idea.
Yeah, how many times do you drive around Denver and see vape stores? I've never been a smoker in my whole life, and to me, it's a byproduct of a failing industry. And the nice thing about innovation is that it doesn't necessarily have to kill an industry. Yeah. What it has to do is evolve an industry. I think industrial hemp has the opportunity to help evolve a lot of different industries as an additive or as a complement to those existing channels of business that they're already in. And the nice thing about evolving generations is there's some smart kids growing up in this world, in a very different world than we grew up in a very much more flexible world and driven by innovation today more than ever. Okay,
Well, you have children?
I have 3 teenagers living in a state where pot's legal. So
What's the conversation at home like?
my youngest daughter thinks when I talk about industrial hemp that, here goes Dad. He's on another kick. You know, I was a VP during the .com era. I had startups going left and right, and you know, my son loves he's very technology oriented like I am. If I could ever pull him off the Xbox, but he kind of gets it. My daughter, 19, who, like I said, is at some electronica concert at Red Rocks tonight, every time I talk about what we're doing at the foundation, I can see her brain moving over to the pot side going, Dad, you're really cool. You know, you're going back to the 60s, you know, and I'm like, it's not exactly that. I don't think that I'm where I was then. And
is it an open conversation at home?
Very open.
From all levels, not just an industrial hemp side, but just everything.
I am truly blessed to have a very engaging family. My wife is a sports psychologist, a personal trainer, a wellness coach, a CrossFit trainer. She looks, you know, when she hears me talk about industrial hemp, in fact, I get texts from her every now and then saying, here, read this article. I read this. It has to do with nutrition and industrial hemp, pain relief and industrial hemp. And so I think there's a tie-in to a lot of different areas. You can't try to boil the ocean and try to be all things to all people. You have to really pick your battles, really focus on a few things. We get a lot of inquiries about this research product or this research project or that research project, and we discuss it. We discuss it at length, and we really analyze and speculate about what benefit would this have in the end. We reverse engineer back from what is the deliverable of this research? What will it really produce? Is it going to benefit business? Is it going to benefit medicine? And that helps guide us in what we want to focus the foundation on.
Right.
Outside of the foundation, it's, like I said, the wild, wild west. Anything can be done with anything.
Right.
And we're trying to help support production facilities. I think that's the next level after, you know, the growing takes place, albeit it's very slow and very tedious because, you know, you can't have it cross-pollinate with a THC producing plant. There's the CDA has a lot of guidance on that, and every farmer has to have the right kind of registrations. We would love to be able to let the foundation help growers, potential growers, and basically pay those registration fees for them. But we have to get to a certain point of maturity before that can happen.
I ask about how your children look at this and how you're approached this, because you brought up a couple of issues that are, I think, pretty controversial in people I've spoken to. In just the regards of you saying, I'm setting up a meeting with RJ Reynolds, you're immediately going to alienate people who have a whole different outlook on where this industry should be going.
Sure.
And that in itself puts a lot of pressure back inward on the industry. But there's a lot of people, some strong opinions that that is not the way this industry should be going. We should not be talking with RJ Reynolds. We should be talking with Bob and Jane Farm down the street who have their own, you know, individual family farm, and that's the way we should be going. But it's a hard situation because to make an industry grow, we need money and we need bigger organizations involved. If
Will Rogers had a saying, and he said, and one of my favorite sayings, and I use it all the time, he says, you can be on the right track, but if you're standing still, you'll get run over. So when I talk to the larger organizations, they will not be first in. What they will do is they will support from the background until something is proven out. Now, why wouldn't an RJ Reynolds, who's still a little skeptical about, well, where are we going to play in this game? But if you give them a way to propose and support research that will be conducted by a accredited academic institution that will then share the research back to them for their benefit, but also pick and choose the other recipients of those findings, then they might be able to come up with the level of funding needed for some pretty serious research that will have vast benefits across a lot of different industries.
Right. We need that money.
We need that money. And so it's a juggle of conversation, and that's why people like myself, who have been for years convincing people to give money to a startup technology company or a mature technology company for something that may have started out as smoke and mirrors, but it will deliver this back to your company as a cost savings. It helps me in my deliver when I am trying to tell a compelling story, when I'm trying to be supportive of the needs of what will that research deliver. And it's not easy. It takes a lot of thought. It takes a lot of understanding of the personality of the person you'll be talking to. Directors of innovation at oil companies can either be very conservative or they can be far-reaching, cutting edge. You just have to pick the right people, and you have to say the right thing. You have to know your audience and say the right things to the right people to get them to jump on board. And jump on board understanding that this is not just another capitalist, let's put more money in our pocket and forget everybody else.
Right.
The way it has to be, any donation, corporate sponsorship that we set up will have to have outreaching benefits to the community. It has to, or else we won't entertain it.
Yeah, people, we need big money, we need a big industry. We just don't want it coming from a big company, I think, per se.
Yeah, but again, big companies aren't always operating as a single entity.
Right.
There are divisions within big companies that are established purely for innovation, purely for the exploration of alternative means of energy, alternative means of food supplement, different things like that. Those are the kind of people you have to ferret out within the big companies. The second thing is, it would be nice if we found our own Warren Buffett, who was very sympathetic. There are very influential individuals that, as we get the word out, as we become more exposed into the populace of the United States, word's going to get around. If we can maintain our credibility, then I think we will find those people. Case in point, David and I have a meeting on the 12th of June with the mayor's office. I met Mayor Hancock and Governor Hickenlooper at a CSU Food and Ag Innovation Summit early March. The mayor said, "Why don't you speak to my director of communications?" And we've been exchanging over the last month or so. It's a little difficult to get an appointment in the mayor's office, especially for a single purpose. And so the first person we're going to start with is the executive director of the county and city of Denver, the executive director of marijuana policy for the county and city. So what we expect to come out of that is not just the fact that we are differentiating ourselves as a foundation from what that individual is dealing with in the current state of the recreational medical dispensaries, but also to explore with this individual, where can industrial hemp fit into a city like Denver, organic communities? Where can we fit? What can we provide and help support? And is there research that should come out of that? If we do our job right, if we tell the story correctly, I think we can find ourselves getting support from the city and the county for research.
And that's the type of research that ultimately will be more beneficial.
Of course.
I mean, people researching the genetics of the plant and how to make stuff better in the plant will happen.
Yeah.
But what do we do once we have it, I think, is the research people are really going to want to know, because I think we know how to grow it. I mean,
right, yeah.
We may not be masters yet at it, and there's a whole variety, we've discovered.
There's tests going on that will tell you, what's going to grow better at higher altitudes. Right. The agronomy project at CSU, it will determine just that. I met with a geneticist with an organization here in Denver, and he is working on a strain or cultivar seed that he is expecting to produce really a sterile type industrial hemp plant that cannot be cross-pollinated that basically becomes immune because pollen can travel for miles. And so if someone's growing marijuana, in one side of the county and 20 miles down the road, someone's trying to grow pure industrial hemp, there is that propensity. And you might find the DEA knocking at your door with flamethrowers saying, hey, let's burn this crop down. It is possible. So science and innovation and research is what's going to drive that logical outcome that all of a sudden makes it inarguable for the government to not separate the two plants.
And those are real issues. I don't know if people really understand, but genetically modified corn and other stuff that comes from companies such as Monsanto, if it blows over a fence, there's some real political and legal issues there. And I don't think people understand that it's not just simply saying, oh, come on, just grow it over here and grow it over there. But it really does happen.
And we've
happening now with current agricultural, with corn and other types of things that are specially developed. Like
how many times have you heard the acronym GMO? GMO free, So there are arguments right now that are pro and con about how those right plant strains will be developed and then dispersed. I don't want to get into that argument. There are much smarter people that are working through that, figuring that out, and then the legislation should probably follow. But as you said, what needs to happen is, okay, so we've got a crop. We've got 60 acres here. What do we do best to benefit why we got into this? I'm a farmer up in Bennett. What do I do that makes this a valid side of my business now? Or do I keep growing alfalfa? Or do I keep not growing because the government pays me to not grow? I've got land here to use. Industrial hemp is a perfect rotational crop because of what it gives back. And so those are the things that people have to wrestle with in order to validate, do we get in on the front end? Others, they'll be in the middle.
I've seen it. I grew up in a small little farm town down south state, and I've seen struggling farmers that are not big conglomerate farms. They're small farms, and they struggle with these questions of what do I grow, how do I grow it, and how much resources am I going to spend trying to grow it?
What's the cost of goods sold? How much am I going to have to invest to jump into a potentially game-changing industry? Yet it's at that controversial stage right now. So when do I jump in? To what depth do I jump in? Like I said, you have to pick your battles. You have to time it, appropriately for where the state of the union is around this industry.
So how do you pick your battles? Because we've just gone over research and such a broad topic here, so many things that could be researched. How are you actually taking this foundation and narrowing it down to this is what we're going to stand for and represent and pursue?
Right. Well, there are the obvious. There are the obvious medical benefits with extruded oils, CBD. That's already been proven to some extent. Now, granted, it doesn't have the FDA seal of approval on a lot of it, but it's getting there, in my opinion. It's getting there. And, our project with University of Colorado in their neurological sciences department, that's a valid project. That is going to produce something that will, be shared with medical institutions, providers, individual practices for PTSD and potentially stroke victims. Look at the chemotherapy patients that are moving to this state.
Right.
Because it appears that it has some beneficial effect. No one has written, the Bible on what CBD can do, documented by the Medical Association, the AMA, and the FDA. But there are proven incidents of beneficial effects. So it's got to go from that point of speculation to the next point of documentation and validation. Why do you think in Steve McQueen's last days he was getting some treatments out of Mexico because he couldn't get the treatment he thought he needed and his doctor agreed with him that he needed in the United States? And that was many, many years ago, and it was related to his
actor, race car driver Steve McQueen.
Driver Steve McQueen.
Sure the
Great Escape motorcycle riding Steve McQueen. Yeah. So there's a lot of benefit to, as you said, picking what research is going to have the greatest impact the soonest. So inarguably, medical is one category. The other category is, what do we grow? And how do we grow it? It's easy to say, it'll grow anywhere. It grows in ditches in Nebraska. It's a weed. It's drought proof. It's a weed proof.
Nebraska, I think, is actually dealing with this issue.
They are right now. Yeah, exactly.
It's growing like
people are driving from Colorado, picking up that ditch weed and bringing it back to Colorado.
Probably not a good idea, but
no, but it happens.
The point is, it'll grow like a weed.
It will grow like a weed. I grew up in South Texas. Let me tell you, there's no better place to grow cannabis than that sandy loam down there in South Texas, where right now there is so much cheap land because the cattle business pulled out, the oil business pulled out. It's one of the most impoverished sections of this country next to Southern California.
The best way I can relate it to people is, like corn, the majority of corn grown is not corn you want to eat.
Exactly.
Just because hemp can grow everywhere is not necessarily the hemp you want to be using for all of these different areas.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot. Resources. You're 90 days in. What people? It's you?
We have an executive group of about 6 people. Okay. So we have about 15 volunteers to date. After the events that we're involved in through Hemp History Week and the U.S. Cannabis Expo, Indo Expo, and the Hemp Farmers Market. Every one of these events, we solicit volunteers, and then we call them. We have conference calls. We have meetings and say, okay, what are you capable of doing? What area would you be in? Are you a phone caller? Are you a door-to-door? Would you like to go stand at a mall and solicit? So we have a lot of different avenues we can explore, but we also have to maintain some level of professionalism in what it is that we do. So again, we're picking our channels of how we go about soliciting the funds. We're hoping to take it up to another level very shortly, and then expand the reach. And a lot of that has to do with the messaging. We get hits on our website with suggestions all the time. I was at an expo. I was approached by a gentleman from University of Nebraska-Lincoln, wanted to talk about some projects. University of Illinois wanted to talk about some projects. There's Mesa State has some interest. Growing industrial hemp on the western slope. Is that going to grow differently than it is in Lyman? So all these different conversations are had, and like I said at the very beginning, because we are a non-commercial, nonprofit, research-focused entity, it makes it easier to have those exploratory conversations without any paranoia back on the person we're discussing this with. Because we're not trying to steal someone's business. We're just trying to open the door so that innovation can occur. Open the door so that a market can broaden in and to itself. I feel like I'm doing something that is good. If I can help establish businesses, I don't consider myself a pioneer in anything, but if I could be one of those people that was an enabler, that helped bring this industry back to credibility and turned it into a major job producer, a major farm and agricultural community benefit that can put food on people's table again because now they have something else to produce. That is a satisfaction level that's hard to describe. I'm 61 years old. I've been, in my opinion, relatively successful throughout my life. But as I get closer to the sunset, I want to feel like I've done something good. When you get older, you begin to start having those feelings. If you're any kind of moral person, I focus more on my children and my family than I do on myself, or else I'd be out playing golf this afternoon and not talking to you. I'd be fly fishing in the South Platte, but that's not my priority anymore. My priority is to make sure my children get through college, make sure things that I believe in happen, and this is one of them.
I like that phrase, the enabler. I like that, the way of thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm a cog in the wheel. I've never been the personality of saying, hey, everybody follow me. I'd rather just help push the wagon along. It suits my personality.
Yeah, well, a world of enablers is what keeps things moving.
Exactly, yeah. We're all ants in the ant bed, right?
Is this a transition career for you? Is this you retire from your current career in a few years and then transition into this full time?
If I could even speculate about retirement, I'm 61 with 3 teenagers, so Social Security better be alive when I'm 80 because I may still be working.
Are they volunteering for the organization?
Well, my oldest daughter, has already offered to help, but I think she's interested because she thinks she she's going to get freebies out of a trade show. There's level maturity there.
Some hemp stock.
There, yeah. We could boil this down and make tea. Well, it's going to give you a headache because there's no THC in it.
But what is the long term here? What's the ultimate goal?
First of all, I'd love for the foundation to be successful. We wouldn't have done this if we didn't. Now,
what would be a measure of success, seeing that it's a non-commercial, non-profit?
Sure. Well, we established the foundation. We built a budget. We're targeting these first two projects. We're trying to be conservative about our growth because, again, it's a volunteer organization. Eventually, nonprofit organizations that get to a critical mass require full-time, operational and management staff. If this could build into something like that, yes, I would entertain that. But again, I didn't get into technology 30 plus years ago because I didn't like it.
Right.
I'm that non-programming geek type person. I'm still fascinated by technology. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today if I wasn't. And if I could somehow find a way to tie what I do into support of the foundation, then I've got the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
I can't discredit what got me to where I am today. And so I can't even begin to imagine not working. I don't know how to do anything else. I've been working for so long. But it doesn't stop me from being supportive of something that I truly believe in.
So if this gets to a point where they need a full-time CEO or executive director that has a full-time position there, then maybe.
Yeah, never say never. I don't want to lose the focus that I have today, which is a very exciting part of the industry that I'm in and the company that I'm with. It was very exciting to be part of a company that went private. You get to explore more things and you get to open up innovation into other areas. But much like you would say that your other hobby is cooking, it doesn't stop me from wanting to be a better cook. Right. It doesn't stop me from wanting to explore with different types of food mixes or dishes or things like that. Industrial hemp is an extremely exciting potential that I've embraced. You can talk to any other individuals that I interact with, Zev at the Rocky Mountain Hemp Association. I met Doug Fine, the author of Hempbound, at an event up in, I think it was Longmont. And it was basically co-hosted by the Colorado Hemp Corporation, who is the gentleman who initiated and co-sponsored the Northern Colorado Hemp Expo in March, and this manufacturer up in Fort Lupton. And it was a very small but influential group of people. I'm working with another individual who heads up what they call a real estate exchange, a bunch of real estate owners that are looking to invest in other things besides real estate. And this lead at this real estate expo or exchange is working with a group of other individuals that are looking to open up a production facility here in the tech center area.
Oh, nice. Production facility in the tech center?
Yeah.
Where is there space for that?
They tell me there is. I didn't ask the exact address, but there appears to be there appears to be some buildings coming up for sale. So
okay.
I think what they want to do is take baby steps.
Yeah.
And of course, it would require pretty good critical mass of industrial hemp to work with. So nothing is going to happen fast.
Yeah.
It is going to be a very measured process. Things will change, but being ready to embrace that change is what I think it's all about right now, especially beyond the growing state, the other parts of that supply chain. I mean, they're just like any other industry. Before I got into technology, I was a nut broker. I worked a nut broker. I worked for a food brokerage company in Dallas, and I had the nut division. So I would buy and sell 40,000-pound rail car loads of pecans, walnuts, cashews, almonds, macadamias. Think of what I'm about to tell you in the sense of industrial hemp. I would buy from the grower, so pecan orchards, peanut farms, macadamia growers in Hawaii, cashew growers in Africa. I would buy from the grower. They would ship it to cold storage. We would test it for E. coli and moisture content levels, and we would set a price on that commodity, i.e. industrial hemp. Okay. We would then identify shellers or processing plants for those raw nuts in the shell. So raw hemp plants would go from the farm to the production facility, and we would broker that exchange.
Right.
And collect a percentage back as commission for handling the broker. So it would be large quantities. Then, once the producer, the sheller or the producer, would create the byproducts, the raw material byproducts from those raw plants or nuts, they would then turn it into various decorator halves that would go on top of fruitcakes, pecan meal that would go into pecan butter, small pieces that would go into cookies, ice cream, candy, and then whole pieces that would go just be packaged and sold in the stores, your King Soopers, your Kroger's, your Albertsons, Safeways, wherever. And then we would set another price. So what was $1.87 a pound at the raw point to the producer would then move from $1.87 because the production occurred to $3.60 a pound for medium pieces that would be used in some sort of production. And then we would broker those produced materials to the end manufacturers, Archway Cookies, Mrs. Fields Cookies, American Airlines Bakery, Disney World Bakeries, you name it, Cisco Foods. All of these parts of that supply chain are going to occur exactly the same way with industrial hemp. So there's going to be brokers that will broker from the grow to the production, from the production to the manufacturing, and then retailers to go from the manufacturing to the end, the end consumer.
Yeah, I mean, when I buy from Costco, when I buy my 2-pound bag of hemp seeds, I'm sure there's a whole process of people involved getting
how it got to Costco.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Costco is yet growing their own hemp, but I heard Washington Costco, we're going to start selling not medical, but just recreational marijuana is the rumor I heard.
About a year ago, David, this was before I even met David, told me he attended a Hemp Industries Association, I think it was Meet the Senators event in Washington, D.C. This was at least a year ago. And he met the president of Nutiva Products, which is, a hemp products company based out of Canada. And at that event was a senior buyer from Costco. And he was looking to buy quantities of finished hemp products. Again, we're the largest consumer of finished hemp products in this country. And he met the president of Nutiva. They had a conversation. David just happened to be standing there and listening in. And the conversation went something like this. If we gave you orders, can you fulfill those orders, and give us a span of products to choose from? And he said, of course I can. And the Costco buyer said, well, what kind of quantities can you deliver? And he says, well, what kind of quantities do you need? And he says, could you get us about 3 18-wheelers per week? And he said, no, I just can't produce that much. So even though these other countries are ahead of us, our opportunity is to accelerate faster. Not that we don't like the fact that there are products being manufactured in other countries, but if we have the opportunity, we have the innovative and the acceleration capability in this country to take it to the next level, to meet those demands. And there will be demands. The more different types of research that is conducted will open up those various demand channels that will ultimately produce the end products that will create new markets that we haven't even thought about. Some kid out of School of Mines is going to come up with something else that we never thought about that will leverage a very large quantity of industrial hemp once it's produced into a raw biomass.
Well, I think Costco would get more support from a PR standpoint than an R.J. Reynolds. Just because I think people just publicly sympathize more with Costco and their business model and how they treat their employees. And I don't think people fear Costco as they do.
Well, and don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong about the tobacco companies. They're looking for other ways to generate revenue streams. There's no question. So much like I would go to a dispensary and look for what I would consider to be a small donation, we're trying to set up subscription style support programs so that dispensary could donate $100 $100 a month to the foundation and be supportive. We let them put a decal on their window that we're not just selling marijuana, we're supporting research.
Right.
You know, and there's some benefits to that.
I don't think the boardrooms of Costco look any different than those of R.J. Reynolds. I just think from a PR standpoint, Costco is definitely won public goodwill as far as how they're...
Yeah, and there's, you know, there are, if you look at the Fortune 500, we might find ourselves talking to a banking institution for one reason or another. Maybe they just have a community-oriented attitude. We might find ourselves talking to an apparel manufacturer that might have a commercial interest in what might come of it, and not have to pay import taxes and not have to wait 8 weeks for something to be shipped over from China when it can be manufactured and produced right here in the United States.
Well, that's why it's important to really talk, if I can flatter you just for a second, to really talk with individuals such as yourself who have had some good business background and some experience and have had a number of years to get that under their belt, because as good-hearted as a young upcoming entrepreneur might want to be, it's a business, it's an industry. There needs to be some people who understand that aspect of it, just hands down. I mean,
you know, when I attended my first Rocky Mountain Hemp Association meeting, and I met all the people that I'm still interacting with today, I will honestly tell you that my first thoughts when I was pulling into the parking lot and driving up there was I was going to walk into a room.
Drum circle.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of dreadlocks, you know, a lot of Jamaican sweaters and stuff like that, and I walked into a room of people with as much gray hair as me.
Yeah.
You know, so the fact that level of interest is in those circles really convinced me that this was a worthwhile path to go down.
Right.
That this was something that I could embrace and be amongst my peers, attorneys, professors, you know, senior 30-year manufacturers. It's not a commune anymore. It is becoming an industry.
Right.
Much like technology back in the late 70s was not even on the desktop. And look how fast it's accelerated and matured. It has become a viable industry. It's become a necessary industry. And touches everything. So when people talk to you about the Internet of Things, they're not lying.
Yeah.
When we talk about industrial hemp becoming once again a viable commodity and economic benefit in this country, I don't think we're lying.
Yeah.
I think it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And it's going to take the support of everyone to not just support research, but also support those other elements, the legislation, the upswell of support, the education that's going to convince a largely agnostic population to understand that this is good for everyone. And it's not going to take away from big industry. It's going to complement big industry with its own sub-industries and the complement to their own industries.
Right.
I mean, who wants to take DuPont on and say, I'm going to replace plastics in total? That's never going to happen. But we can make plastics better. We can make chemicals better. We can put fewer emissions into the air. We can help with deforestation.
Doesn't BMW already build their
yes,
cars with
some components in the door panels,
Companies already doing it on their own because they
look
see
at the construction industry. There are already people looking at compressing hemp composite materials, a biomass, into a simple 2x4 that is harder than a wood 2x4, fireproof to some extent, waterproof, mold-proof, and better soundproofing than 2x4s. Insulation, flooring materials, non-asbestos roofing material. Think about all of that stuff that comes out of chemical plants that will stop chemicals flowing up into the atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely. And
this is
into
not
the ground.
And into the ground. I mean, I used to call on Eastman Kodak back in the day as a customer, and when I flew into Tri-Cities, Tennessee, you could smell it, from the airport. And I would drive up to their plant, and I would see people fishing in the river right next to the plant, and I was wondering, okay, who's going to eat that fish?
People that are fishing.
People that are fishing there. But again, it's, we've come a long way.
Yeah, my family's from Milwaukee, and anytime you don't live in Milwaukee and then go into Milwaukee, there's some pretty strong odors from the brewing plants and
exactly.
in the air. Industry towns,
Of course. Pittsburgh.
Industry towns, it really dominates. Even in Texas, probably, there's all sorts of oil-based things where you just enter an area and you're like,
go to Pasadena.
What dominates this area?
Go to South Houston. Yeah, you can't avoid it. We called it Stinkadena.
They're underwater now, though.
Yeah. My sister lives just south of there, and she got evacuated. So
it might even help that.
Yeah. Well, they're. I don't remember if this is accurate, but I'm going to throw it out there. I think because of the bacteria in hemp or some component of the plant can be turned into a more rapid biodegradable material, and we'll try to say this the right way, when it hits a saline solution, which is salt water, that would help potentially with oil spill mitigation, potentially with certain products that end up in the water, might dissolve faster and add nutrients into the Gulf or the ocean that will potentially feed brine shrimp. So that 6-pack holder that's made out of plastic today, if it were made out of a hemp composite, wouldn't get stuck around a seagull's neck, wouldn't get caught in fish gills and then in fish nets, would biodegrade and benefit the water.
See, a lot of this, I think, is people start saying all this and everybody's like, yeah,
it's a great idea.
Of course. Yeah. But then there's that kind of that gap, right?
Action.
That chasm. You got to get from everybody kind of going, yes, we all agree. Now, how do we get to the next step?
Well, my hardest job is, because of the role I accepted with the foundation, is to hopefully be that voice of reason and that voice of action, saying that, I appreciate your agreement that this is a good thing, but show me how much you agree. Help us support research, and you will be the benefactor of that. So that's how someone can convince themselves that what they did was, number one, a good thing for something that they just said they believed in. I don't care how big or small the donations are. Every little bit helps, just like any research-oriented institution. And proving that research out, conducting the research and then publishing the findings is what will make this industry accelerate exponentially. And this is where we need the biggest help. This is where my ask to your listeners, my ask to everyone I speak to at every event that we attend, why I volunteer my time, is to spread the word. And eventually it will fall on those supportive ears.
And if that doesn't motivate you, it's at least tax deductible.
And oh, by the way, it's 100% tax deductible. So look at the dispensaries or the grow operations that are cash-oriented businesses. They are making pretty good money. Why wouldn't you want that tax deduction? Why wouldn't you want to have that also community beneficial label that you also are not just in it for cash in your pocket, but you're in it to help support and rebirth an industry?
Well, maybe the foundation can be responsible for creating like a universal constitution, if you will. A lot of this is people are always in agreement, but yet can never agree to do something. And I think a lot of it is because people don't sit back and go, well, what are your intentions? Are your intentions the same as my intentions? Because if they are, then I think we can agree to do something. But I think a lot of people, they look and go, well, look at this guy in his suit and tie. His intentions aren't the same as my intentions.
He's driving his new Tesla because he was one of the first in.
Right.
Well, God love him. That's great. I'm glad there's that level of entrepreneurial spirit in this country. If it's legal, then it's fine. But I think if the foundation achieves its objectives, we will be an aggregator of thought, and we will also be a consolidator of action. We can bring the right people together, and then the action will occur. We can get everyone that is thinking in one direction on the same page and rowing in the same direction. If we can do that, if we're able to achieve that as the foundation, then the research that is necessary, that validates the market, that creates and helps support the industry, will happen as a byproduct. We can't do it by ourselves.
That's how I look at it with all my interactions. Is I have a simple question I ask myself when I meet people: is this person trying to make society better? And if I can't determine a yes or no with that, I have trouble interacting or doing business with somebody, regardless of the specifics.
Right. I'd love to win the lottery. Unfortunately, the way I was raised, I was raised by a very, very good man, and that has stuck with me. I consider myself to be a good person. I don't agree with everything. I don't agree with everybody. I have my ups and downs. Life is like that. I found a passion in this foundation and in this potential industry. I didn't think I would. I came in very skeptical, but the more interactions I had, the more of a believer I became. And so if I can just share that belief and impress that upon other people, then I will have done my job. You won't find me opening up dispensaries. Well, unless AARP supports it, but you won't find me standing in front of the State House at a rally with my tie-dyed T-shirt on. I did that back in the 60s and 70s. It didn't get me anywhere. I'm responsible for 4 lives. So it's okay for me to at this stage of my life to say, this is something I truly believe in. This is something I truly want to support and volunteer my time for. And if I can convey that attitude and infect other people with that attitude, then the momentum will swell. We'll get to where we need to go. And it will be probably as enjoyable a ride as I've ever had in my life.
Well, I think that's what people should take away from our conversation today. So I don't want to stomp all over that ending bit. I think that's a great way to go out. We've gone almost an hour and a half.
Okay.
Believe it or not. How many hours do you think we could keep going? Just
if we
touching the surface of
I think because of the way this industry is evolving, I think you should look at this more so as a continuing conversation.
Absolutely.
You should set up accomplishment milestones. And I constantly go back to the votehemp.com webpage and look at where they are very good about updating where all the states stand. And I use that in I have a presentation that I use depending upon the audience for, if I'm presenting to donors, if I'm presenting to people that might be interested in growing industrial hemp, if I'm presenting to people that might be interested in the production side of it. I'll tweak that presentation, but I also want people to understand what's the state of the union. Where are we at today? State by state. And I think we're seeing that momentum is swelling. That's what changes legislation. That's what changes law. Too many people knocking on the door. And the validation proven by research just gives that argument so much more power, turning just a simple argument into a convincing argument. I'd like to see that you continue monitoring what we're doing. You help us spread the word, and it will happen.
Absolutely. I agree, and I accept your invitation to keep this as an open conversation.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure now with our small forming network between David and I just actually got contacted by Grant.
Grant Orvis, yeah, he's the brainiac.
Okay,
he's
speak with him.
He's part of our organization too.
Also.
Yeah.
But as the network grows, as the associations expand,
Sure.
I think the conversation is just going to naturally keep going. David and I seem to be communicating on a weekly basis.
Good.
And brainstorming ideas. So I see nothing less than continuing from this as a starting point.
Perfect. Well, I would that would make me very happy, and it would also allow me to help you, keep people posted. Absolutely. Of what's going on. It's not easy to launch any type of organization, especially if it's volunteering time. We all have to pay our bills, but if we have a passion and we believe in it truly, it will be able to take off and fly on its own 2 wings. And that's my dream. My dream is to make this a reality more so than it is today, and ultimately to one day open up the Wall Street Journal and see industrial hemp in the commodities section being traded just like wheat, corn, alfalfa, citrus, pork bellies, you name it.
You want a ticker?
I want to see that ticker, yeah. That means you've established yourself. That means you have grown up and you're able to walk on your own 2 feet, and you are producing jobs and revenue and benefits to this country.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you participating in my passion.
Yeah.
I love to listen to people talk about what they do and how they do it, and I learn from that. And I really get excited when I think other people are learning through what I'm bringing them. So I appreciate
this is a great medium. Like I said, I've been in radio before. It is probably the most convenient communication mechanism outside of the internet, and it was there first. I think you're able to reach maybe audiences that blogs and physical event activities, and quite frankly, we're not quite ready for primetime TV.
Well, you have definitely educated us today.
Well, Hemp History Week starts 6th of June.
Well, why don't we end with all of your information again?
Sure. The website is www.thethihrfoundation.com. I know that's a long one, but there's also a Facebook link, so I encourage everyone to click on our Facebook page and like us. We're just about to go over 1,500 likes in our first 60 days of being on Facebook. I'm working on the LinkedIn group site, and then you can call our main number and get routed to the right individual depending upon the subject matter of what you'd like to talk about, and that number is 720-282-5806.
Thank you very much, Bob.
No, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thanks for listening to this week's show. Make sure to come back next week. We're going to have more guests lined up, speaking with dispensary owners, growers, business owners. Make sure to follow us on all of the social media, Facebook, Google+. You can listen to our shows live from the website or your preferred listening platform. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spreaker, even YouTube, all under the same name, CannabisCommunityProject.com. We'll see you next week.
Come on!